Welcome to FX Options University, recorded live at the International Securities Exchange, the world's largest equity options exchange. Join the industry's top trading professionals as they provide insight and strategies for trading in the currency markets using FX options. FX options are a low-risk alternative to hedging currency moves in any market condition.
Now, if you have a downtrend that you want to measure at the same time, then of course you could connect the recent highs to the most recent lows, in this case from 2009. And then you can measure how much of this recent downtrend we're going to retrace before the trend resumes, if it does resume. So for example, here we just recently rallied up to the 61 fib and we're starting to stall out. So many people that trade Fibonacci's are looking for opportunities to get short if price breaks back below the 50 fib, which of course would mean it's going to break out of this descending triangle. And so this is a very, very popular tool that we teach the students at Online Trading Academy. We also combine it with trend lines, and then we can use Fibonacci's for potential profit targets too. And if you combine it with prior areas of support and resistance, you have what we call confluences or clusters of resistance or support, which usually help you to pick your areas on which Fibonacci's you want to take your trades at. And this is a very popular pattern. This is an intraday chart of the from yesterday of the dollar versus the euro. The dollar, of course, has been rallying. And so I connected a point here below our moving average to a point up here above our moving average. And then the dollar was starting to retrace a little bit, so I connected this point here. And I'm looking at this chart to the right of me here, and the next day we actually gapped up to here. So that's where our entry point was, buying a breakout above the 14% area here. And our stop loss immediately would go below these lows. You can use a few pips below these lows for a stop. And our original target was the 38 fib, and our high for today was right here at 74.87 was the day high here. So with this particular chart pattern, if there is going to be some kind of a slight retracement in what could be a new uptrend, and you would like the opportunity to buy strength on a breakout here above resistance, and then use these Fibonacci extensions for your potential profit targets, and this could be your first profit target here. You could hold and possibly price will move on higher from here and maybe take out these highs. But this is a very popular pattern that we teach at the Online Trading Academy for students to use for intraday trading, but the pattern works on any time frame. So once again, your entry types in uptrends are to buy new highs, which is buying strength, or buy pullbacks to support, which is buying weakness. In downtrends, you could sell new lows, which is selling weakness, or you can sell rallies into resistance, which is selling strength. On this chart that we have of the dollar index back in November, we actually made this new support pattern. And this is, again, the pattern that we look for in the Online Trading Academy, especially in the extended learning. This gives us a low-risk opportunity to buy a pullback to support with a very, very tight stop loss below the prior lows if you're somebody that likes to buy weakness. And your first target would be some resistance just above. And if your distance to your stop loss is a third of the distance to your target, then that would become a trade that you might be interested in taking. And doing this with options, folks, when your price is pushing back like this, usually the volatility is in your favor because most everybody is selling their options, mostly to panic. Okay? And if they do happen to panic, then you get to pick up the options pretty cheap. Okay? And again, this is the same pattern, this time with the Swedish krona on a daily chart. Prices kind of based for a period of time in October, then they rallied. And buying this pullback on this candle here to the support area with a very tight stop below the prior lows, and your first target being the resistance area, is an opportunity if you're somebody who likes to buy weakness, and that's the key. If you don't like to buy weakness, then this pattern won't work for you. Here we have reversal patterns in an uptrend. Actually, we had an opportunity to short a rally. If you're somebody that likes to sell strength, you could short this first rally into a resistance area. And here's a an opportunity coming up right here in the Australian, this is the new ISM Australian cash index. We have the exact same opportunity on a 240 chart where we were rallying up into some kind of resistance. And if, of course, the Australian dollar does want to go higher, you're going to have a protective stop loss just above these highs because not every one of these trades is going to work. And, of course, if price does sell off, then your first target's going to be down here. Okay. And if this trade, if it's 3-to-1 risk to reward, it becomes a pretty simple trade to take. We also teach our students to use trend lines extensively because properly drawn trend lines can help with entries, exits, and of course determining the direction of your trend. We like to use what we call swing lows or pivot lows in an uptrend to draw our trend line because buyers are in control during uptrends. And a pivot low has a higher low to the left and a higher low to the right. So it's what we call a pivotal point on the chart. Kind of has a low here with a higher low to the left and a higher low to the right. You can also use something called a swing high or a pivot high in a downtrend to draw your trend lines. Once again, the sellers are in control. Anytime there's a rally to a trend line, usually the sellers will be sellers, and they maintain control of the market as long as the trend line isn't broken. And your pivot high has a high with a lower high to the left and a lower high to the right. If you buy trend line pullbacks in an uptrend, you're buying weakness. If you sell trend line pullbacks in a downtrend, you're selling strength. But it's also possible that you can break trend lines, which means you would be buying strength in a new uptrend or selling weakness in a new downtrend. So on this particular chart here, we actually had a downtrend line break right here, which is buying strength. We also have the opportunity to draw our trend line once this pivot low forms here. And then you have the opportunity to buy a pullback to that trend line. And this was yesterday, so the dollar was actually pulling back after a rally just above 75. The dollar was actually pulling back to a trend line at around 73.50 or so. And so if you're somebody that likes to buy weakness, then you would buy your pullback to your trend line. And it's also good to note that we have a support area here. We have a period of basing before the new high. And usually that's a good place to buy too, so you have two opportunities to buy right here. And if I'm not mistaken, we didn't quite get to our trend line. It got very, very close. That was almost the low of the day. So if you close above that trend line, that's your opportunity again to say that the trend line's valid and you could buy the next candle. If it happens to be a daily candle, then you would buy the next day. Here I have my downtrend in the dollar versus the Mexican peso, and I have opportunities to draw my trend line from this high to this pivot high. And once I draw that trend line, I have what I call an outer trend line. Eventually, during this downtrend on the daily chart, we may rally up to this trend line. However, the sellers became more and more aggressive at this point, and the angle of the trend actually became very, very sharp. People were selling at lower and lower prices, almost in a panic. And so once this happens, and I can now draw what we call an inner trend line, and if I happen to be short from higher prices, I can use a close above this trend line to exit, with this other trend line as a possibility for a re-entry in this downtrend.
Thank you for participating in this week's session. Please join us again next week. Get trading ideas, exchange rates, webinars, news, and commentary. Visit www.fxoptions.com. ISE FX options can be easily traded through all options-enabled brokerage accounts. These exchange-listed securities are cash-settled in U.S. dollars and have a European-style exercise.